Welcome to Bare Bones. With your hosts, Dr. Mason West.
Welcome in, everyone, to this episode of Bare Bones. I am Mason West, and co-hosting today, Khari Thompson. Khari, how you doing?
Doing all right, my man. Still trying to figure out what the hell that was on Sunday, why it had to end up like that. But other than that, we're good.
Why? Because it's the Bears, and the Bears can't have nice things. It's just a universal law.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think in the absence of, look, us both being, of scientific mind and training, you have to accept that there are certain things you just can't explain. And the Chicago Bears are one of them.
They are a stronger force than anything in this universe. And by that, I mean a stronger into the negative. It just is what it is.
Yes.
We have some news to talk about a little bit before we get going here into the actual preview. Bears worked out some safeties this week. Terrell Edmonds was one of them. Adrian Colbert, also one of them. Edmonds, Tremaine's brother, former first-round pick, played for the Steelers and Jaguars this season. And, of course, Adrian Colbert was with the Bears. He was one of the ones that was cut, and Poles was kind of crying, had let the emotions flow in Hard Knocks when he had to do it. Colbert's an interesting dude. He's back with, as we'll talk about a little bit later, Elijah Hicks on the injury report, also Jaquan Brisker on IR. We talked about that last week. Don't need to rehash it. Let's get into some of the quotes from this week. Caleb Williams said on the comfortability with Thomas Brown's play calling, I think it started with practice with the reps. It started with him stringing things together. Noted they weren't scrambling to figure out what was coming next, but instead had an idea. What is your take on that?
Preparation is good. This was something I talked about on Bears Over Beers last night with Brian. When you think about it, it makes sense, especially in terms of game day operation, right? You have so many things that you need to be looking over and sorting through before the ball is snapped. And when it's taking too long to get a play in, you don't have time to survey the defense and be like, okay, let's remember my keys. If he drops down in the box, I throw it over his head. Or like if the safety does this, I throw it the opposite way. When you're sitting up there being like, oh, I got to get this motion across, or I got to get this person lined up properly, and then like clap, snap me the ball because the play clock is running down. You don't have time to sort through all of that. But when you are getting the play in on time, you have time to sort through it and get everybody lined up correctly. You have time to even be like, okay, let's get out of this play. This play sucks, and let's get into another one. That's the kind of stuff that, we talk about, getting plays in on time, in terms of, oh, let's not get a procedure penalty. But that's the other part. Okay, you need to have time. And yeah, they've gone through this during the week, and they have, they know their keys and they've memorized everything. But in the moment, you want that little bit of extra time to figure out what you're supposed to be doing. And it clearly showed in their performance. I mean, you look at their EPA per play, was like by miles their best since before the bye.
Yeah, especially going into this upcoming week where you're playing a defense that doesn't give you time, right? What it looks like before the snap and what it looks like after the snap changes almost instantaneously. You're not going to have time to really even decide what's happening pre-snap. So we got to see that carry forward into this next week of, again, knowing what's happening, play call getting in early, like you said. The other thing I think we saw was that there wasn't as many checks at the line. There was one play in particular where we saw Caleb definitely shift it, but for the most part, it seemed like, hey, play call's here, go ahead, run with it, making it a lot easier. You weren't seeing offensive linemen turning around, looking back and saying, like, what the heck is happening here, which was pretty huge. One last bit that I want to talk about highlight regarding last week, and then we can try to put that in the past and move forward to this week. Adam Hogue had tweeted at Adam Hogue. Matt Eberflus, when asked by Nicholas Mariano if there was any thought of moving the ball to the right hash before the game-ending field goal attempt, Eberflus said, "There was not. There was not. We feel good with our decision there." Cairo Santos kicks all of his extra points from the right hash. Then Dan Wiederer tweeted, "The block kick was not a result of which hash the Bears were kicking from. However, Cairo Santos told me this afternoon he would have ideally preferred to kick from the right hash instead of the left." Now, again, would it have prevented a block from happening? No, but isn't that a problem when your head coach isn't even considering where your kicker wants the ball, and you had 35 seconds and you had a timeout, so you could have literally just been like, "Hey, Roshan, run to the right and fall"?
Teams do this all the time, what you just described, whether it's Roshan Johnson, run to the right, or we're going to take a knee. Let's go ahead and take a knee at the spot that we know our kicker wants to kick it from. And I would think that Matt Eberflus knew this, and Richard Hightower certainly knew this. Who knows if it was relayed or not, but that's a very commonplace thing. And yes, does it, and again, no, does it mean that if they had moved it to the right, the kick wouldn't have been blocked? No, you can't say that definitively. But it's another example, I think, of when the moment, when it's in the clutch, and there's like a small symptom of a larger problem where the Bears have lost 8 games under Matt Eberflus, where they've had an 80% probability, to win. I think that it speaks to a bigger problem. When you get to those moments, what do you do? Are you being proactive? Are you being aggressive? Are you dictating the action? And I think Matt Eberflus, in a lot of ways, just like wants to get it over with and hope that it doesn't go wrong. And that's when you lose.
Oh man. So you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head. What has been refreshing, because the Eberflus stuff is not. The Eberflus stuff is just
stale and gross.
The peas you have to eat at Thanksgiving. If you're a pea person, sorry, but I think peas are gross. So the peas you eat at Thanksgiving just because Auntie Mama, made them, and you have to show for it. What is refreshing for me, which is like, I don't know, I really like cranberry sauce. I know a lot of people don't, but the cranberry sauce for me is what Thomas Brown has been doing. I have a couple quotes I'm going to read to you, Khari, and I'd like to hear what you think of these. So Thomas Brown said, "How many ways can we design unsackable plays?" Taylor Brown on tailoring his plays calling to his players. "It doesn't matter what I'm comfortable with. I don't play. I can always adapt and adjust." And lastly, Thomas Brown on what worked well for the offense on Sunday. "My goal is always to put our guys in the best spot. Highlights playing tendencies and sequencing to their advantage. Marrying run and in the pass, marrying formations."
I mean, I actually wrote about some of his comments earlier today, and the things that he said are the kind of coach speaky things that you hear from every offensive coordinator, pretty much, worth their salt. But the thing is that we saw it, though. I think that's the key, right? It's like, I'm sure Shane Waldron said other similar things, right? No one is going to necessarily come out here and say, "No, we're only going to run, this scheme, and we're never going to adapt ever," right? The plan is always to be adaptable and always to be able to be flexible to change things as you need to. But when the rubber meets the road, not everybody can do that. And we saw that for however many weeks. And then you see Thomas Brown immediately come in and make changes where Roma Dunze has his highest, target level and his most receptions since week 3. Yeah, since week 3 against the Colts. Cole Kmet caught the same amount of passes, that he had in the prior 3 weeks combined. Right, he had 3 catches for 42 yards, and they all helped the offense, right? And one of them was a good explosive play on that sideline layered throw from Caleb Williams. And you think to yourself, like, in using Roshan Johnson in the red zone, it's like, yeah, get him a red zone touchdown. That's
crazy.
What he's there for. We've been talking about this for weeks. Sometimes it's really just that simple, but it's almost jarring to hear a Chicago Bears offensive coordinator saying that I don't care about like what my scheme is. I adapt to my players. I adapt to my personnel. Like, they're the ones who play. Like, I build it around them, and see him actually go do it, right? And actually put it into action when you had 4 years of Matt Nagy basically being like, nah, man, I'm just going to do things how I want to do them. And then when that wasn't working, he had to give it up to Bill Lazor because he was incapable of changing. And then you had 2 years of Luke Getsy basically being like, well, if you just run the play the way that I designed it, it would work. And now he's also unemployed because he tried that approach someplace else and it didn't work. And then you had Shane Waldron doing whatever the hell it was that Shane Waldron did for 9 weeks of the season, for 9 games. And now, again, it's a 1-game sample size, and you don't want to get too caught up in it. But I mean, we've been through this way too much in the past. Stubborn offensive coordinators who are just like, just do what I tell you to do and it'll work, as opposed to being like, look, we've got a young team. We've got a lot of pieces that we need to work in, and not all of them have been getting the burn that they need to. Let's figure out how to get the football in their hands and then actually go do it.
So I think it's interesting what you mentioned about how the offense felt different under Thomas Brown. Actually, and I'm just retweeting this right now if anyone wants to go look at it. Brian Flores talked about Thomas Brown and Caleb Williams. And one of the things that he said was essentially they really didn't do anything that different because, it's still the same offense. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they essentially just did it better, right? They ran the ball, committed to that more, that the execution was there. You could tell that the flow was there. More or less, but again, more or less same offense. So it's crazy that, you give, and this should be common knowledge, you give 2 different chefs, the same set of ingredients and say, hey, make this recipe. There's a good chance you come out with 2 different dishes. And clearly Thomas Brown was just, at least in this week, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but at least in this week, was cooking them better. He also talked about just how Caleb's mobility was a big thing. And I'm curious on your perspective on this. What percentage of Caleb not being as mobile in the first 10 weeks or so, right? Leaving the pocket, whether it's design plays or scrambling. How much of that do you think was a Shane Waldron piece? And how much of it was Caleb saying, I don't want to run, I want to pass, and wanting to prove I am a pocket passer?
That's a difficult question. I felt like I knew the percentages until you got to the end. I would say that it's probably, I think that most of it's probably mostly on Caleb Williams. When I think about when I think about Shane Waldron and what people have said about him and his communication skills and his lack, I think, of authority in there. But that being said, I don't necessarily want to say it as if Caleb Williams was like totally in the wrong. I mean, he's a rookie quarterback, right? Which, again, might slide some of that back towards Shane Waldron. But I'm sure they're saying like, hey, look, try and stay in the pocket, try to read it out, like it'll be there and all of that, without necessarily saying don't run, right? We don't want you running. I'm sure they didn't tell him that necessarily. But I think that clearly what we saw this week to me was Thomas Brown saying like, dude, like you can move. If it's not there, get out of Dodge. And the other part of this, I think, was watching the previous week, watching a rookie quarterback do exactly that with Drake May. And I've made these comparisons a lot in the weeks leading up to, and obviously in the weeks since then, because I'm out here in Boston. I watch a lot of Drake May. And he's the kind of guy, he's going to read it out. He's going to throw the football. He's been very good at operating the offense. But if it's not there, he's not sitting in the pocket and waiting for you to sack him. He's getting out. He's out of Dodge. He's taken off. And there's just a decisiveness to his game that has not been there for Caleb Williams for most of the season in that regard. But you saw glimpses of what that can look like with him in this past game, where he was making good throws from the pocket and he was being decisive. But when it was time to get out, he was getting out. And that is coaching. That is something as simple as reminding a guy, hey, man, look, we would love you to read this out, but if it's breaking down, and look, it's been breaking down quite a bit, don't sit there and wait for it. Or if guys aren't getting separation, if the first play design is not there, don't take a sack when you don't have to take a sack. It's like you're a mobile guy. You've got elusiveness. Get up out of here. So I think that it is somewhat Caleb Williams putting too much pressure on himself as a rookie to stay in the pocket and to kind of do and be a pocket passer. But even saying that, it's on the coaching to be like, look, man, this is how you play. This is where you're best. Do what you do best, and we will continue to hone as we go along. You don't have to be a perfect pocket passer right now. You're a rookie in the NFL. Do what works.
I think another good example of that is what's happening with the Chargers, with Justin Herbert and with Jim Harbaugh, where forever I have said, I just wish you could take Justin Herbert and take like 10 to 20% of Josh Allen's brain and just shove it in there.
He would never run.
He would never run.
You're looking at Justin Herbert running, you're like, dude, like, and I mean, again, we've seen this, right? This isn't a surprise, but you're just like, this brother can move.
Yeah.
Right. But he would never run.
He would never run. He was just he wouldn't attack downfield as much as you wanted, even though he's got all the arm talent in the world. And I think when you take the little bit of the craziness that Jim Harbaugh has, and you just can put that into the room with Herbert, that pulls that 10% Josh Alleniness, like I was talking about, out. And now all of a sudden, right, he's operating a little more free-willed. He's more aggressive. And that is coaching, right? Whether it's just, again, presence in the room or specifically saying, hey, this is how I'd like you to operate. Hey, just, let's go ball. Let's play some football. So in some way, shape, or form, Thomas Brown helped with that, which is pretty great.
Yeah. And again, I think the difference between Drake May and Caleb Williams a couple of weeks ago, it was about coaching. Really as simple as that. It's not like Drake May was operating with some kind of stacked deck that made him play better than Caleb Williams did that day. It's a matter of, being empowered to do what you do. And we finally, I think, got back to seeing a little bit of that Caleb Williams magic, what he can do. It would just be great if, the rest of the team would help him out and help him pull these games out. We could have had it.
All right, let's take a quick peek at our training room roundup. Going to see what the injuries are like for the Bears and the Vikings. This is one of the shorter injury reports we've seen for the Bears, which is great. I mean, there's just some players not on there, like Jaquan Brisker, who was put on IR, as mentioned earlier. But Karan Amagaji, Ryan Bates, Elijah Hicks, all going to miss this game. DNPs for the last 2 days. Ryan Bates with a concussion. I don't trust anything they do in the four walls of Hal's Hall with concussion. So, prayers up for Ryan Bates. Elijah Hicks went out with the ankle. I believe that did occur on the play where he got tripped up trying to defend the deep ball to Christian Watson. That should have been an interception, but everyone acted like it was such a great throw, whatever. DeAndre Swift didn't participate yesterday, but today was a limited participant. Expect him to go. Tevin Jenkins, full participant today, also going to go. And then, of course, Mercedes Lewis had his veteran rest. When it comes to Tevin Jenkins, the offensive line, right? Because now you got Braxton, Tevin, Coleman Shelton. You're still rocking Pryor, I'm assuming, at right guard, and then Darnell Wright. How confident are you with that line going into this game?
I am. Here's the thing. I'm not as confident as I would like to be that they're going to finish the game. And I think that's where I'm at with all this. I feel like I'm never confident that this offensive line is going to get through an entire game healthy. I think that, I'm as confident as I've been in the Chicago Bears offensive line all season, which is to say that I am tepid on them. Generally at best, I don't expect great things from them. I think that the main thing that you've got to continue doing if you're Thomas Brown and the Vikings are going to force this out of you, get the ball out of Caleb Williams' hands quickly, because you know that Brian Flores is a maniac and he's going to come after you a lot.
So I don't think I made this a question. I don't think I made this question, but I'm going to bring it up now. There's been some talk this week, and it's probably just because you're playing the Vikings, of potentially, if you don't go the Ben Johnson route, to look at like a Brian Flores as a head coach. And then I think there's a lot of options for OC in that scenario, but elevating a Thomas Brown, can you convince him to be OC/assistant head coach, something of that nature? How would you feel as a Bears fan going into August of next year, not knowing anything else besides Brian Flores as head coach and knowing what he can do on defense and knowing his kind of issues in Miami, and having Thomas Brown as your offensive coordinator?
I don't feel confident in Brian Flores, the head coach. I think there are certain guys that, and I remember working with somebody who said this often, as from when he was coaching, you succeed up to the point where you fail very often.
Yeah.
And there are some guys that are very good coordinators that are just not head coaching material. And I feel like Brian Flores, and again, his teams, he had a rough first year when he was with the Dolphins, but then they had winning seasons in his, couple of years after that. But then there were a bunch of, there's just a lot of turnover. There was a lot of, sniping, from in his direction towards Tua Tagovailoa. He didn't want him. He was trying to get rid of him and kind of all of that. And I feel like, yeah, you can learn from those kinds of, experiences. And you never want to assume that somebody can't learn from those mistakes. But I feel like that would take a lot of convincing for me. The other thing I would say is that I am not Ben Johnson or absolute bust here. I mean, I think that obviously Ben Johnson is like the guy that we all want, that he seems like he's the guy that is going to fix everything, and he's going to turn Caleb Williams into the greatest quarterback of all time. That would be awesome, right? But I think that there's also an element of some guys, again, are very good coordinators, but you put them in the head coaching seat and they're just not it. They don't know how to manage people. They don't know how to, form those interpersonal relationships. They don't know how to motivate guys. I'm not saying that Ben Johnson's not that guy at all. But I think that I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea that like somebody could be a better choice than Ben Johnson, or at least that might be better in the long run. But Brian Flores as the head coach and Thomas Brown as the offensive coordinator, or Thomas Brown as the head coach, an offensive, minded head coach. And then you fill out the rest there. Like, I'm not there. Just not there.
Flores is interesting. He was my number one choice the year that Eberflus got hired. It was never going to happen because he had just recently gotten fired from Miami and that whole thing was weird. It was like they wanted him to tank, but he didn't want to tank. And then, like you said, he didn't want Tua, but they forced Tua on him, which if that actually happens, I understand being a bit upset about that. Don't give me the quarterback I don't want. But at the he helped turn around that team, right? 5-11 his first year, which wasn't great, but then he went 10-6 and then down to 9-8. Maybe it's just a comfy place where this is like my football coach growing up, of the bit more of the hard ass, like I'm going to squeeze all the juice from the stone that I can. I do think that he should get another shot to be a head coach. I don't know anymore that I want that right now for the Bears with where
the Bears,
at,
right? Like, do you want to take a chance on that and have it go wrong and then be like, well, damn it.
Right, exactly. Like if you had like more of a veteran quarterback and some other stuff like that, I'd be more like open to it. In terms of the Ben Johnson stuff, I think the one thing I'll say on that before we move on to talk about the Vikings real quick here for their injury report is, I think for me, it's not just the offense stuff. It's the fact that he's gotten basically this internship under Dan Campbell, who is the CEO-ist, football-y, coachiest guy out there, where, you see games where Jared Goff throws like this just back-breaking interception. And then the next drive, he's like, no, you're going to throw a crazy third down throw, and I trust you to do so. And, I think Ben Johnson seeing that, could you get the best of both worlds where, because right now, like the best coaches, in my opinion, in the game are Dan Campbell, Mike Tomlin, and Jim Harbaugh, who are the coachy guys, right?
None of them being offensive-minded coaches, by the way. Not a single one of them.
There you go. Exactly. Now, you do have some other offensive guys. Andy Reid's in there, of course. You got to throw his name in there. But could you potentially get the best of both worlds? Offensive mind Ben Johnson / I learned and saw what Dan Campbell did? Maybe.
You could. And again, I'm not going to equate these two things because it's not quite apples to apples. But I think a lot of people thought for many, many years that if you got, somebody from the Bill Belichick line. As a matter, Josh McDaniels is an example of this. And again, I'm not saying Josh McDaniels and Ben Johnson are the same thing. I would have no way of knowing that. Don't say I'm saying this. But I think a lot of people thought like, oh yeah, if you get, Bill Belichick, protege, XYZ,
you get baby Belichick.
They've learned from the foot of the greatest head coach of all time, all his habits and all his quirks and all of that stuff. And then they go and they try to replicate that success, and they all fail. Every last one of them fails. And I think that'll be one reason it's interesting to look at Gerard Mayo, and a lot of people, want him fired right now, but he's actually been trying to be very much the anti-Belichick, and for that reason, kind of be like, hey, I'm trying to do my own thing here. But I think that you never want to assume that a guy is going to imbibe the characteristics of the guy that they studied under, because they're all their own men. And when they get into adverse situations and they have to be in that seat themselves, they're going to do what they're going to do. And they might take lessons from the guy they learned from. Like Ben Johnson might take some lessons from, Dan Campbell, but Dan Campbell is he's just so different, right? Like I can't see anybody replicating Dan Campbell. And Mike Tomlin is a guy that, man, I don't even really know how to describe it, right? Like he's this dude that Steelers fans always seem to have a reason to dislike him, and he never gets them over the hump, and he does XYZ thing. But then he does stuff like against the Ravens last week where he calls a timeout right before their 2-point conversion, but he calls it so late that he actually gets the Ravens to reveal the play they were going to run. And he's like, gotcha. And he screws them up and they win the game. And you're just like, look, sometimes like great coaches are great coaches because of like those little things, but it's so much down to the individual. I don't know, man. You would love the idea of getting the best of both worlds, but I just feel like people have been trying to do that for years with great head coaches. I mean, look at freaking Matt Nagy. People are just like, oh yeah, like we could get some of that, the Andy Reid magic, and bring it over to Chicago, right? And that didn't work out for us.
No, that is fair. And we'll have a ton of time to dive into that because, in my humble opinion, it's pretty much guaranteed Eberflus is gone. But talking about the Vikings injuries here, the only one really to highlight in terms of someone that's not going to be there is Josh Oliver, their backup tight end. Who cares? Someone who's not going to be there that we've known for a while, Christian Darrisaw, he's on IR. Just want to highlight that. They ended up making the trade with the Jaguars for Cam Robinson, so he's over there. He's been up and down and fine. Interesting, I just didn't know this. Did you know on their practice squad for the Vikings, they have a couple of ex-Bears in the name of Travis Bell, Brian Foles' favorite son. Robert Tonyan is there.
Oh.
And do you remember when they signed for like a cup of coffee, Sammis Reyes?
No.
God, it was like this big deal at the time where like everyone's like, "Oh, is he?" Because he's this kind of like toolsy tight end. I just thought that was funny. He's just chilling on their practice squad. But yeah, Sam Darnold had a foot. He's fine. He has 2 feet actually. But yeah, he'll play. Aaron Jones, he's been just battling injuries for the last 6-7 weeks. I actually talk about him a little bit later in this, so we'll dive into that later. But he was full the last 2 with that rib injury, so expect him to be relatively full bore. That's it. All right. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to dive into some of these specific matchups.
Proper gut health is instrumental to athletic performance and recovery. Our gut is in essence a second brain, and health researchers are continually uncovering new benefits of probiotics, scientifically connecting the dots between gut health, reduced inflammation, and stronger immunity. Kombucha Aid is a tasty, clean label, functional option to easily add probiotics into any athlete's routine. We call it balancing your brains.
Kombucha Aid is a premium performance-focused kombucha crafted specifically for athletes and active individuals. This revitalizing beverage blends the traditional benefits of kombucha with nutritional enhancements to support energy, hydration, and recovery. go ahead and use the code BEARGUTCHECK, BERGUTCHECK, at checkout, and you get 15% off your order. Go ahead. It's awesome stuff. I absolutely love it. I'm not drinking it right now because I'm a terrible person. I'm drinking my Revolution Rye Way to Heaven because I'm getting prepared
not good for your gut.
Yep, it's terrible for your gut. I'm getting prepared for FOBAB this weekend, the Festival of Barrel Aged Beer. So I gotta get my barrel age on. But normally, kombucha, go do it. Knee jerk reaction. Khari, what is your hot take going into this week?
My hot take is that the Chicago Bears offense regresses against Brian Flores and the Vikings. And again, this is not to say anything mean about Thomas Brown. I think that this is just the first time that Brown has gone up against this, right? Against this Vikings defense. And it's a different animal. And again, there's a certain level of like, okay, when you see the defensive backs, 4 defensive backs camping out 10 yards behind the line, in the defensive backfield, right? 10 yards down the field. And you see everybody walked up at the line of scrimmage. There's a good chance 7 dudes are coming after you, right? But that's not always going to be the case. And sometimes they're going to bring crazy pressure at you. And you're just like, I didn't see that one coming. This is going to be the first time I think that Caleb Williams sees this level of, not that he hasn't been blitzed a lot, at points, but this wild of a blitz package. We saw the kind of stuff it did to Justin Fields last year. I know they're different quarterbacks, and we think very differently of them as passers, but still, as a rookie, I feel like it could be a lot to handle.
It's funny you say that because my knee-jerk reaction is I'm worried about Caleb this week going against the mad wizard that is Flores.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Right now, the Vikings defense leads the league in blitz rate at 37.7%. They are 5th in hurry percent. They're tied for first with the Ravens in quarterback knockdowns with 46 total. They're 3rd in sacks with 35. Also tied with the Ravens. Now, Caleb has improved against the blitz in week 11. In weeks 1 through 10 against the blitz, Caleb had a passing grade of 58.2, which ranked 24th out of 37 quarterbacks. Time to throw 2.98, which ranked 33rd. Pressure to sack percent 23.1, which was 25th. Yards per attempt was ranked 25th, and adjusted completions percent was ranked 26th. In week 11, passing grade was 1st. Time to throw was 16th. His pressure to sack was 1st, and his yards per attempt was 11th. And also adjusted completion percent was 3rd. So all big improvements, but it's 1 week. And again, this wasn't against, it's not just the fact that they blitz, it's the fact that they start in cover 2, and there's this weird mind meld that their secondary has where they can just flip to a cover 1 without them realizing. They can go from what looks like a cover 0 over to a cover 3 without just a second thought. It's very hard and confusing, and they do it in a way right before the snap that is very difficult to decipher even for veteran quarterbacks. So unfortunately, I'm on the same page as you, Khari, where this is going to be a bit funky for both Thomas Brown and Caleb.
Yeah, and a couple of quick numbers here. So for people who like PFF grades. So Caleb Williams is not abysmal against the blitz by any means. 70.9 offensive grade as a whole, and a 67.3 grade, like in terms of just passing grade. So all of them are like kind of in the green. They're solid, but again, it's like the 70.9 grade is 22nd in the league.
Right.
And the passing grade is 25th in the league. So it's not like he's killing the blitz relative to NFL quarterbacks right now.
And we just need to remember, and I hate that I have to bring this up, but you do also have to remember that those numbers, I mean, how shifted, if you take out the Panthers game, which still matters, but it's the Panthers. If you take out the Jaguars game, which they actually played this game close, it was 12-7 against the Vikings. I don't understand that. But they just got shellacked by the Lions, so whatever. You can't remove those numbers, but you do have to realize that the easiest part of the Bears schedule has already been played, and you were more or less, like you're just saying, like in the middle. So now that you're going against a Vikings defense that is a good Vikings defense, now the players on it aren't necessarily top of the line, but that is something to worry about.
Absolutely.
To be perfectly honest, I'll go with this one. Something brutally honest. I need to continue to see Roshan Johnson used in this game like he was in week 11. There was a 14 to 10 carry split, Swift to Johnson. Swift is a great option as a home run hitter. My problem is there's a lot of minimal games and then explosive play, right? Whereas Roshan, you don't have that top end explosion option, but there's more consistency. This year as a runner, Roshan has a PFF grade of 74.8. Swift has one of 65.7. I get it. Swift in week 11 had 5.1 yards per carry and had that touchdown that was huge, while Roshan only had 3.3. But a big part of that was Swift's 39-yard run. If you take out that run, that average drops to 2.2 yards per carry. The big play matters. You can't remove it entirely because that's what he does, is gives you that big play option. But does that? I just want there to still be the hey, can you get me 3 yards? I can get you 3 yards. Can you get me 7? I can get you 3. And like that's what Roshan gives you, is that he'll give you 3, he'll give you 4. That keeps you ahead of the chains. What sucks is when you get into 2nd and 10, 2nd and 11, because Swift tries to bounce it and he gets tackled for a loss of 1.
Yeah. And I think that's generally his thing. He's a smaller back, quicker, shifty, or whatever. And he wants to get outside for everything. And sometimes you got to hit that thing up in there. You just have to. Doesn't matter what your size is.
And I'm going to reply to Shy Sports Fan. You can't take it out. I literally also just said you can't necessarily totally remove it. But if you if you have a running back that runs 10 times and gains 1 yard 9 times and then gains 60 yards on the 10th, like I can't justify handing him the ball over and over again. I know that's an extreme example, but come on.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, you just got to look at the entire picture here, and yeah, you can't take out the good games against the bad teams, but again, even with those good games against the bad teams, his blitz numbers are like bottom 10 among starters. He was talking about Caleb Williams. Because his blitz. So he was talking about his okay, so I think I might have had that. Yeah. I was thinking about the blitzing and stuff because he was talking about blitzing numbers.
Yeah. So hold on, I'm trying to, but running 24 times. No, he didn't run.
Should the Bears draft a running back? Yes.
Yes, they should.
Yes,
it should be in round 3 or something, round 4. I haven't dove into draft right now, but it's a really good draft class for running backs.
Yeah, not a single one of these running backs on the team should preclude you from drafting a running back. And the thing is, even if you have a good running back, you should still draft a running back because you gotta have guys ready to spell said running back and ready to take over when they eventually run the tread off the tires.
The last thing I'm going to say is Shy Sports Fan, because this is starting to piss me off. 10 plus 14 is 20. What's going to wear down a team? Running into you and running you over, or trying to bounce it outside and you're getting knocked back? The former, which is what Roshan does. Swift tries to bounce everything. He misses holes, and it's a problem. So I'm done with that conversation. We're moving on. What was your to be perfectly honest?
To be perfectly honest, it's time for Rome Odunze to officially become the wide receiver 2 of this football team.
Yes.
Keenan Allen, he just ain't got it. Can't run. I mean, he's still got that savvy. He can still, be kind of an outlet receiver. He should be your wide receiver 3. I think DJ Moore, when he's on, is still your wide receiver 1. You're still wide receiver 1. But look, Rome Odunze needs to be getting a ton of targets, and you need to be figuring out ways to get him the football because he's far more dynamic than Keenan Allen is at this point in his career.
A good example of that was the last throw of the game where Keenan Allen ran the out, got the reception, and put them in field goal range. And I'm sure, right, that was the first read. That's how it was drawn up. And it's like, hey, we just need to get in field goal range. Keenan got open enough, and he made the catch. If you looked on the backside, Rome's post route, wide open, because the Packers were in cover 0. Everyone moved up, and you would have, if not a touchdown, been within the 20 probably. So that's a perfect example of that. And look, Keenan's role should be more defined, like you said. Wide receiver 3, who we're going to scheme you up for one of your 1,000 out routes if you run. And also, every time he runs a choice route, he runs out. It's insane. It's mind-boggling. But he should not be second in targets. And actually, I'm just going to blend this into, Ain't This Humorous? Because mine was, do you know who leads the league in catch percent right now, Khari?
No.
Cole fucking Kmet at 86.49%.
Because he catches every target his way, but they never target him.
And to compare that to some of the other pass catchers on the Bears, Keenan Allen is at 53.57%. Rome is at 56, and DJ's at 64. Kmet also ranks 7th in separation and 5th in cushion.
7th in separation?
7th in separation.
That was the thing. He couldn't separate. He couldn't separate before, but now he's out here running all fast and all that stuff.
And by the way, this is next
and they don't throw him the ball. Look, not really Hank Aaron. Listen, Keenan is not done, but he's clearly not what he used to be. I mean, you just got to watch it. I mean, Rome's the guy now. Man, we got a lot of people out here trying to tweak us today.
I'm blown away that someone is really standing for Keenan Allen and his inability to separate right now.
Here's the thing. Look, you got to stand on business for your takes. I do respect that. But I feel like I've seen enough. This is not a 1 week thing. This has been something they've been needing to do for a minute. And oh my God. Now that is funny. I mean, I think, again, this is something that we already talked about, but just the ain't that humorous of a Chicago Bears offensive coordinator saying, yeah, I'm not out here playing, so I think I should, listen to the people that are playing and I should scheme around them. And it's like, wait, is the Chicago Bears offensive coordinator allowed to do that? Can he say that? Zone. Is that allowed? I mean, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my God, like Luke Getsy's out here punching air right now. Mike Martz ready to take.
I was going to say Mike Martz.
Mike Martz is ready to kill somebody right now.
It's refreshing, and I get this year is more or less done. I was playing with the ESPN playoff machine because I had time at work. I had someone that canceled, so why not? And in order to make the playoffs, the Bears essentially, you could lose to the 49ers. You have to sweep the division, beat the Seahawks, and then you need the Green Bay to lose to the Vikings and the Lions, I think one apiece, essentially. So we're done with that conversation. Whatever.
So like in reality, you can only afford to lose one game.
Correct. And it has to be out of the division.
It has to be out of the division. I mean, look, in the end, the moment they started once they lost to the Cardinals, it was like, okay, well, we're good.
So all that being said, right, the rest of the season is about Caleb developing.
Yep.
The rapport between DJ and hopefully and Caleb, and also Rome and Caleb, and then ultimately, yeah, sure, see what Thomas Brown can do. It's a bit of a it's a test. Now, what I will say is, I don't want to dive super hard into this. We kind of already talked about it. I mean, I don't want there to be a situation where you hire a head coach and then be like, you have to keep Thomas Brown on. Like, I would like that to be their decision. And also, it's been 1 week. Chill out.
Yes.
All right. Another break here, and then we're going to dive into our matchups. We got that dog in us. Underdog is a place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. With over 5 million happy players and $2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. Compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more player stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog. I've used multiple sites and apps to enhance my game day, and Underdog is quite unique. Something pretty cool is their vulture protection. If you select a designated running back to score a touchdown in your pick'em entry and they get vultured, they will rescue your entry.
Well, look, if anybody's out here playing DeAndre Swift, from now on, you know what you got to do.
Exactly. This season, Underdog's going to be running a special promo or bonus almost every day, like profit boosts, discounts, and free picks. They're basically a sure thing. A player just has to get higher than 0.5 passing yards for that selection to win. Plus, all new users get a free pick. Also, you could try out Underdog's double flex option. You can even take 2 L's and still have your entry be a win. Download the app today and use the code CITY, C-I-T-Y, to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every hair-raising touchdown, just select higher or lower on Underdog. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or www.ncpgetgambling.com. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT-STEP to 3342. New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. It's always a whole thing. All right. What you need to know about this game against the Vikings.
Can you help these stranded Vikings get back home before they're trapped forever? Lost Vikings.
If anyone can name the console that video game is from, you'll be my friend forever, because I played that a ton growing up. A couple of things here. The Bears-Vikings rivalry has been played 126 times with one postseason game, with the Chicago Bears winning 58 games and the Vikings winning 66 games. They've also tied twice. The Bears split the series 1-1 last year, beating a Joshua Dobbs-led squad 12-10. Bears are going with the striped helmets and the white striped jersey 1936 throwback for Sunday's game against the Vikings. They last wore them last season versus the Cardinals. The Bears are 5-2 when they're wearing these throwbacks since they debuted in 2019. Khari, are you ready for a couple of questions I have regarding the Bears and Vikings matchup?
Oh, God. Okay.
All right. What is Sam Darnold?
What is Sam Darnold?
Yeah.
He is a solid NFL quarterback that was let down by a terrible franchise who's now gone to a better one with a much better coach who has him playing good football. I would put him a little bit below Jared Goff in terms of good quarterback reclamation projects. I think I need a little bit more consistency out of Darnold before I proclaim that he is hashtag good. But he's definitely playing well right now. And you got to give a lot of credit both to him and to Kevin O'Connell for that.
Yeah, right. I mean, this is a guy who became a meme essentially with the whole seeing ghost thing. People threw him away and forgot that the Jets just are the Jets, which is a problem.
Still Jetsing.
And then he was on the Panthers, and the Panthers are the Panthers, which is a problem. And then he did an internship with, Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers, and now Kevin O'Connell, who's a great head coach. Who'd have thunk it? Got him moving. So is he a guy that you win with or because of? He's probably a guy you can win with. I don't know if it's a Super Bowl, but I do think there's going to be some interesting questions you have to answer when you get to the end of the year, when you have JJ McCarthy coming back. Do you just move on to JJ at that time? I know there are some Vikings fans that are pounding the table to keep Darnold. So, interesting.
Yeah, I think that you drafted JJ McCarthy as high as you did because you intended him to eventually be the guy. And I mean, we've seen this, right? Almost, I think with the exact same pick, they took McCarthy 10th overall. They took Patrick Mahomes 10th overall in Kansas City. And I'm not saying JJ McCarthy's Patrick Mahomes, right? But what I am saying is that the Chiefs got rid of a better quarterback than Sam Darnold to allow Patrick Mahomes to play. Now, this is a different situation because JJ McCarthy is going to be coming off of a knee injury that forced him to miss his entire season. You haven't seen him in practice this whole time, right? So you don't necessarily know right now what you've got in terms of being on the field. And you've got to see what that looks like next year. So I don't know that it's necessarily going to be the same thing. But it would not surprise me if they were like, yeah, it's JJ McCarthy's team now.
Yeah. So regarding the Bears, what was last week's offensive performance? A blip, a true change, and how good was it really when they produced 19 points? And I'm not even just for this week, but just for the rest of the season.
I think it was probably going to be a step in the right direction. I don't know that it's necessarily going to be, revolutionary for the offense from here on, but it's the kind of thing that makes you feel better about Caleb Williams. It makes you feel better about the plan that they have for him, and I will accept that for certain. I think that, look, you can still play good offensive football in a game that you don't score as many points as you want in. And obviously, we all know they should have scored 22 points in this game. It just didn't end up happening. So yeah, I think it's one of those where you got to be better for certain because you want to score more than 19 points. You got to execute better than that. Obviously, those couple of sacks at the end of that the beginning of that last drive are things you don't want to see any more of. But again, for what they were doing those previous couple of weeks, and then what they did, against a good opponent, I think you'll take that as a first step for Thomas Brown, because it could have gone a whole lot worse.
And one thing I want to highlight is a lot of game times you get about 10 to 12 possessions. The Bears only had 7 possessions in that Packers game. 2 were field goals and 2 were touchdowns. You scored on 4 out of 7. The 5th, as you just mentioned, was a blocked field goal. So 4 out of 7, 5 out of 7. There just wasn't really enough opportunity to get a lot of points, unlike, let's say, the Lions last week that had the ball every 10 seconds. So, the number 19, I think, is a little misleading just in terms of when you compare it to some of the teams that were scoring, 30 or so points last week. Just keep that in mind. All right, next question for you. The Vikings signed 2 guys off the street in Stephon Gilmore and Shaquille Griffin to be their starting outside corners. Per PFF, they're 70th and 78th corners respectively, yet the Vikings are 8-2 and have the lowest points allowed in the NFC North. What gives?
Sometimes PFF grades can be a little bit deceiving. I know for somebody like Christian Gonzalez, I'd have to look at what he is now, but Christian Gonzalez has been playing some really excellent football, but he was terribly graded for much of the season. Some of that has to do with how much you're targeted and what you give up when on the occasions you are targeted. I mean, I would think that, Shaquille Griffin's like a replacement level corner. Stephon Gilmore's not what he used to be when he was the defensive player of the year. So let's not get it twisted there. That said, I think you still need to be real wary if you're throwing Stephon Gilmore's direction with a light heart. He can make you pay.
I didn't have this question, but I'm going to throw it in because I just happened to stumble upon this. So Dallas Turner, interesting. Currently, PFF grade 58.0 overall. And again, take PFF grades with a grain of salt, but I just happen to.
Yeah, and by the way, so Christian Gonzalez, who's been, kind of locking a lot of people up and throwing away the key, he's ranked 55th among corners in PFF grade. And he's way better than the 55th corner in football right now.
I would agree. Dallas Turner, who a lot of people were pounding the table for, I think in Chicago, in terms of wanting an edge if you didn't go wide receiver. 58 grade, like I said, he only has 128 snaps. He started with 29 passing snaps and 6 rushing snaps in week 1, and just really hasn't gotten close to that number ever since. Was Dallas, and they traded up for Dallas Turner too, and he's out there, he's playing not all that much. I mean, if you even just go right to last week, he only had 12 total snaps. Is Dallas Turner a false sense of goods, or do you think the Bears are going to be able to take advantage of that at all?
I don't know. I mean, I'm going to keep it real with you. I think, look, I don't necessarily get that riled up about, rookie edge rushers. I think that's a tough position to come in and make a really strong impact right away. Somebody like Will Anderson last year, last year, where you knew that he was, the most polished guy out there and he was going to come in and do stuff.
I raise you Jared Verse, sir.
And well, see, here's the thing. I was a fan of Jared Verse.
I was also a fan of Jared Verse.
And I think a bunch of people are like, whatever. And like, no, I thought Jared Verse was nice. And he's come out and played really well. But Dallas Turner, I think he's a lot of tools that I think it needs to be refined.
Do you expect the blocked field goal to linger like the Hail Mary did? I said that the Hail Mary lost the Bears 3 games, not just 1, in my humble opinion.
No, because I think that's a unit that is on the field so little, and with a guy who's generally so reliable, that I don't know that sort of thing is necessarily going to happen again. And then on the other side of it, you had other positive things that happened, in that game, especially on the offensive side of the football. I think it was part of why it hurt so much with the Hail Mary is because the offense was so anemic and you thought you were going to escape and you didn't because the defense screwed it up. And then you went on to play terribly because you had other problems. I think you don't quite have those problems right now.
Totally agree. Last question. Do the Bears have a Tyreek Stevenson problem?
I think they do have a bit of one. I'm not really enthused about him right now. I think that he has to learn how to be a professional. I get it, being fiery, being competitive. I don't mind if you run your mouth a little bit, but if you're going to run your mouth, then you need to be doing all the right things on the football field. And he's not doing it. It seems like he has a lot to learn still about how to be a professional and an NFL player.
You saw that after that fourth down stop the Bears had, he took a funky dive, at Jordan Love. In addition to that, he got chippy with multiple Packers. And then even when the TV cut away, right, he kept going. It doesn't seem like he learned. And it'd be different.
Yeah, I'm just not trying to hear or see any of that from him right now. He's not good enough for that.
To answer your point, it'd be different if he was showing up in play. But I'm going to pull up a chart here. I'm going to snag this. I'm going to put the banner down so you can actually see what the heck this is saying. If you're watching live, you can see this. If you're on the podcast, I'm sorry, I'll try to describe it the best that I can. If you're looking at this chart, bottom of it is raw PFF separation prevented. And on the left, you have target rate against. So basically, Tyreek Stevenson exists in the bottom left corner, right? Which means that he is being targeted pretty constantly, and he is preventing almost no separation. So if you look at the upper right corner, you see Jalen Johnson, the exact opposite, where he's not being targeted much, and he's also, when he is targeted, preventing a lot of separation. So Jalen Johnson's living amongst guys like Patrick Surtain, Sauce Gardner's up there, Tariq Woolen, Trent McDuffie, Marlon Humphrey, Joey Porter, a bunch of great individuals. There's no one near Tyreek Stevenson. He is just so buried in that corner, and I'm a Tyreek Stevenson apologist. I have been for a while now, but I mean, he is just not living up to the standard that he needs to, especially as a second-round pick. You're going to get targeted more when you have Jalen Johnson across from you, but you also then need to be a bit more on top of it.
Yeah.
Now, love it, hate it. What do you love? Give it this banner.
I mean, I love the increased usage of two of your better pass catching targets in Cole Kmet and Rome Odunze, and I want to see more of that. I would be very curious to see what Thomas Brown cooks up for them this week. Last year, when they had the second matchup with the Vikings, you saw some of those chip releases from Cole Kmet to get him some big completions against the blitz. I thought were really good. We'll see if they drop some interesting screens for the likes of DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, but I want to see them get the ball in Rome's hands and let him run.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I think it's needed, not just for this year, but again, you're looking at next year. Just keep getting Rome going. Also, I just can't, every time Rome talks, you hear these interviews, what he says, it's exactly what you want.
Every time.
My love it is this Bears secondary versus Sam Darnold. The Bears passing defense ranks first in expected points added with 20.31. By the way, there's only 7 teams in the positives when it comes to that stat. They rank 6th in completion percentage allowed, 9th in interception percent, 7th in passer rating allowed. Look at Sam Darnold. He has 7 interceptions in the last 4 weeks. The only week he didn't have one was against the Jaguars. He is 4th in interceptions overall, 1 short of being tied with the lead. You can get Sam Darnold this week, was what I'm saying. You should get at least 1, if not 2 interceptions.
Yes.
Hates. I'm going to keep mine simple. Kevin O'Connell versus Matt Eberflus. They were hired in the same coaching cycle, and the teams could not be going in different directions. Kevin O'Connell, being able to work with both Kirk Cousins, right? In theory, you were going to get JJ, but now getting what he's getting out of Sam Darnold, being able to keep the team afloat. Like last year, there's a lot. Justin Jefferson was injured constantly. Being able to, get a guy like Brian Flores and being able to work with a guy like Brian Flores, who was a head coach, that can be very tough. He can be very fiery. And then there's Matt Eberflus. That's all there is to be said. I just hate the fact that Eberflus is going to make at least 3-4 coaching decisions I shake my head at, and I think Kevin O'Connell will do the exact opposite.
Yep, and kind of on a similar line, because I'm going to go slightly different here. I really do kind of hate the matchup of Brian Flores against a rookie quarterback and a guy who's calling plays for just the second week with this team. And again, that's not to say that I don't think that they can surprise us at all, but this is a diabolical ass dude. And again, Brian Flores comes from a coaching, the Bill Belichick coaching tree that feasted on rookie quarterbacks and knew exactly how to take advantage of them. And I just don't love how that feels this week.
Yeah, it's not a great feeling. Rehabilitate. So I'm going to steal one from Jonathan Wood at Jonathan_Wood1. Make sure you're following him if you're not. Got some good data, and I'm going to show some here. Keenan Allen I'm just done with it. I just don't want him in 12 personnel anymore. Reason being, DJ Moore, 73 targets, 6.3 yards per target. Adunze, 60 targets, 8.0 yards per target. Cole Kmet, 37 targets, 9.7. Swift, 32 targets, 7.6. Keenan Allen, 56 targets with a 5.0 yards per target. And that's with Allen missing 3 games. So he is out targeting Kmet, Swift, and he's only 4 short of Rome Odunze, and he missed 3 games. I love how Kmet has 20 fewer targets, but 75 more yards than Keenan. Like, that's insane. That's just not how you use your weapons. So please, Keenan just cannot be wide receiver 2 anymore. He just can't.
It's not it. I mean, and again, it sucks because it's like it's not that we expected a ton, but I think that you hope that there was just a little bit more left in the tank. Like, he'll play a couple of more years, but he's just not the same guy anymore.
What was your rehabilitate?
Here's what I would say. It's not that the Chicago Bears necessarily blitz a whole lot anyway, but I don't know that I would blitz Sam Darnold a lot in this game. I think you got to figure out a way to get pressure with 4 guys. You need to get your best pass rushers free for this one, because Sam Darnold's stats are about the same, or at least his grades are, when you look at when he's blitzed versus when he's not blitzed. But when you get pressure in other ways, Sam Darnold is markedly worse than when he's kept clean. So I don't know that the answer is to send 5-6 guys at him all the time, because I think he's got enough weapons at his disposal to get the ball out of his hands. And obviously, if you're leaving Justin Jefferson one-on-one, that's kind of I'm just going to throw that up. Yeah, Jalen Johnson's over there. Okay, that's fine. It's cool. I'm still taking Justin Jefferson in that matchup. We'll see how that goes. But I think that if you can get pressure with your front 4 and you can lock things up and make Darnold hold the ball long enough for Montez Sweat to get up in there, then I think you're really going to you're going to be giving Sam Darnold some trouble.
2 things. 1, the Bears rank 11th lowest, in terms of blitz percentage. So there you go. Number 2, I'm glad you brought up Montez Sweat. Out of curiosity, are you getting everything you need out of Montez?
I mean, I would say in terms of production, no, not at all. I think that, there was someone who say, like, look, he's not always going to be doing that because he's going to be getting more double. I haven't seen the double team rates, by the way. He's going to be getting more attention. He's going to be getting more chips until somebody else, makes some plays. But I think that you would ideally like to see more game wreckage out of a guy that you paid as significantly as you did.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. X factor for the Vikings. Mine's get Aaron Jones going. He had 2.6, 5.2, but that was against Jacksonville. 3.0 and 3.1 yards per carry in their last 4 games, and he has not scored a rushing touchdown in the last 4 weeks. He only has 2 on the year. Like, you just cannot say, hey, Sam Darnold, go win this for us every single time. If you're the Vikings, you got to get that going. In addition to that, Aaron Jones has been pretty rough in the red zone in particular. He just hasn't been able to get the same burst that he did with the Packers. So whether that's a usage issue or a scheme issue, or it's an Aaron Jones is losing a step issue, but you still need him to produce a bit more.
Yeah, and I think from that standpoint, I would agree, whether it's Aaron Jones or whatever running back they've got out there, like Alexander Madison, et cetera, et cetera. But
Madison's in the Raiders, by the way.
Oh yeah, duh. Yeah.
I think it's Ty Chandler. Oh, no. Cam Akers. Cam Akers is the backup.
Cam Akers, they just got him. Yep. But I think you got to do that because the Chicago Bears have the worst rush EPA allowed in the entire league, right next to the San Francisco 49ers. So they can't stop the run, and everybody knows they can't stop the run. So I think that's whether whomever it is, it's the running game. You got to run the ball against the Bears.
What about your X factor for the Bears?
It is going to be. It's going to be Cole Kmet. There you go. It's going to be Cole Kmet. I know we've talked about him a lot. I don't necessarily want to, keep hammering the same name over and over again, but I think he played a huge role last time against this blitz-heavy team, and he needs to be an outlet for Caleb Williams, and you need to punish some of that. And again, the wide receivers, we talked about them a lot. How do you get them the football, especially against these kind of blitz-heavy fronts? And again, just because these cornerbacks aren't graded well doesn't mean you necessarily want to be throwing at Stephon Gilmore. But Cole Kmet, who I think is playing some pretty good football right now, it just hasn't been rewarded enough with the targets. I think this is the time where you say, we need you to eat this game.
Mine was just keep Caleb moving and keep diversifying the passing game while making it look the same. The problem is, and this wasn't the case as much last week, it was more the first 10 weeks that, you're under center. Oh, they're running the ball. Mercedes Lewis is in, you're running the ball.
Yep.
You're in shotgun, you're passing the ball. Everything just looks so, and when you motion, it was simply a motion to discover coverage. There wasn't the motion like we saw last week, which is better, to give an advantage to your receiver because you're running at full speed. So just keep doing that and get everyone going 100%. I'm sick of looking at the film, the All-22, and being like, I just don't think that does not look like you're running 100%, dude.
Loaf.
Just you're clear out. Your job is to clear.
It's like, are they still handing those out?
Oh God, does anyone care? There's no way anyone in the locker room is like, oh dang it, I got a loaf. That sucks.
Dog, your ass is loafing.
All right, one last mini break, and then we're gonna wrap up this show. Over unders. I'm going to throw out some over-unders to Khari. He's going to give us his response. Simple as that. Over-under, Caleb Williams passing yards, 215. This would go with
We're gonna go
earlier, just a little bit of a struggle for the Bears in the passing game. I mean, I can see it.
And I mean, even if you're just getting the ball out, a little quicker,
We just haven't seen Caleb be able to connect deep either. So you're just going to continue to get the intermediate and the short passes until further notice. Over under, Aaron Jones rushing yards, 65.
Up. He always kills the Bears.
There's a special switch he hits when it's against the Bears. That's very frustrating. Over under, Rome Odunze targets, 9.5.
Ooh, that's a good one. I think this week it's going to be under. It'll be under. I don't know that it's going to be that much under, but it's going to be under.
Over under, Justin Jefferson receiving yards, 80.
He'll find a way to get over it.
All right. DJ Moore non-traditional targets. So this is screens, end arounds, things of that nature, 3.5.
Yeah, give me that. Up.
All right. And lastly, Vikings blitz percentage, 35%.
Well, what's the percent?
35.
Oh, please. Please.
It's going to be like in the 50s or something crazy.
Oh,
it's going to be insane.
Absolutely.
Bear Gut Check. We use our gut feelings revitalized by kombucha. 15% off. Use the code Bear Gut Check. Buy the kombucha. I swear you guys are going to like it. It's insane that not more of you are buying it. It's ridiculous. But anyway, we're going to give our game predictions against the line. First off, Vikings at Bears. Vikings favored by 3.5. I did these yesterday. So again, I always remind you, if the number is different, it's because I'm busy on Thursdays, so I didn't get to change it. So who's going to take it? Vikings, Bears, Vikings 3.5.
Vikings take both.
I think the Bears can win this game. I'm not sitting here being like, meh, but I know what? No, I'm going to take the Bears.
You know what? I respect it.
Because I just think another loss in that losing streak, that's just a lot. And just the odds are telling me that they're going to win, I think, 2 of these division games, at least one. It would make sense that'd be this, just because that's a lot of games to lose in a row.
Something's got to give at some point, right? Then again, I mean, hey, we said that about, the previous year. They found ways to rack up them losing streaks.
You are not wrong. Tonight's game, Thursday night football, Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cleveland Browns. Steelers only favored by 3.5. Weird.
Steelers, because come on, the Browns are awful. And it's going to be a divisional game, so somehow it's going to be closer than you think. And also because I feel like the Russell Wilson moonball experiment isn't, it's starting to lose a little bit of steam now that everybody knows that's all Russell Wilson does.
You sure just the YOLO ball to Pickens over and over again isn't going to keep working?
No, eventually it's going to slow down, but they're still going to win.
The Lions at the Colts. Lions favored 7.5, which, by the way, is less than what the look ahead is for the Lions Bears game on Thanksgiving, which is 10. So take that in.
That'll be an interesting one. I think I'm going to say the Colts are going to cover that, but the Lions are going to lose. I mean, the Lions are going to win, but the Colts will cover.
I think Anthony Richardson had his better game last week, and this will be a bad game. I'm going to take the Lions to cover 7.5. That defense is solid, and the Colts defense is not stopping that offense at all.
You would figure, but weird things.
49ers at Packers. Packers favored by 2.5.
Give me the 49ers for old time's sake.
Ooh, okay.
Because they find a way to break the Packers' heart pretty much every time.
Oh, who said it? Manti Te'o had a take at the beginning of the year that the 49ers were going to be emotionally drained from the last 2 playoffs runs, and he got basically shredded for thinking that. I think the 49ers are emotionally drained. I think that most of that team is just tired. I mean, and that Shanahan is tired, and they're just with some of those injuries. Ayuk out, Kittle's kind of in and out of the lineup. Man, I don't know. I think I'll take the Packers, and I agree. I think the 49ers need a reset of some kind. I don't know what they need to do, but there's got to be some juice infused, and I don't think that happens this year. Last one, Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are favored by 1.
Again, one of those divisional matchups against 2 teams that are a little bit wild card-ish. I'll take the Seahawks, though.
I will take the Cardinals. I don't trust the Seahawks offensive line, and for having Mike McDonald, that defense is not what I thought it was going to be. It's disappointing, to be honest.
I just feel like Gino's going to Gino in a good way.
Yeah,
the way he has been.
The anti-Shane Waldron, basically. All right, our last category, because again, we are going to skip our offensive defensive player of the games, King of the North, because the Bears still don't deserve it. We're not going to do those again until they win. So, a coccyx and bull story. This is a bold prediction. I'll just dive right in. Cole Kmet scores a damn touchdown.
Let's go!
Which is bold. It shouldn't be bold, but it is. What is yours?
Bears get 3 sacks on Darnold. Somehow,
some way with their just abysmal pass rush.
Yes.
All right, here, let me ask you, who gets those sacks?
Montez Sweat gets 1. Jervon Dexter gets another. Austin Booker gets a 3rd.
Austin Booker call out. Let's go. Yeah. All right.
I honestly probably should have gone with one of the linebackers on a blitz, but you know what? Give me Austin Booker, man. He plays hard. Give it to him.
Jack Sanborn with the sack. All right, that's what we have for the show today. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for following along with us. I know this Bears season is not what we thought it would be, but there's some hope here. There's some interesting stuff. And I think this game, you're still going to see enough out of Caleb that you're still going to feel okay with this game. I don't think you're going to be like, oh my God, this is terrible.
Exactly. Again, being in Boston and watching Drake May, just because the Patriots are 3-7 doesn't mean, people don't feel really good around here.
Yeah. I will be at the game, as a reminder to anyone listening so the post-game show won't be until around 5 to 6-ish, because I got to get back from Soldier Field and set up and all that jazz. So be on the lookout for the link for that. Khari, what closing thoughts do you have?
Try not to lose too badly. Caleb Williams, I hope that you surprise us and, give the Bears another opportunity to win, towards the end of the game, without committing, some horrible turnover. But you know what? Every loss at this point only nails the coffin a bit more snugly, for Matt Eberflus, so I can't be mad if they lose. Unless Caleb Williams is terrible, then I will be upset.
That's pretty much the only thing that would happen in this game that would make me actually upset is if Caleb just looks like bad. Other than that, or a major injury to someone that heavily.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
other than those two things, the rest of it, whatever happens, happens. All right, bear down, everyone.
Can you help these stranded Vikings get back home before they're trapped forever? Lost Vikings.